Welcome to Alberta Football Uncensored. I am your host, Teej Johannesson. With me, as always, is my co-host, Omari Fraser, who just got off doing some cool episodes. I was out golfing, so couldn't make those, but, priorities. So those were good. I hope everybody listened, enjoyed those. I think there's some really cool stuff going on with football and Football Canada, especially at the tackle and flag levels. So really exciting time for football in general across this country. We are continuing today with our Alberta Football League team previews. We did the Calgary Gators in our first episode. We're going to go now next to the Airdrie Irish, who have definitely been making some noise in this offseason, specifically in the last week, adding some interesting talent that I can't wait to talk about. Of course, myself joining the Irish this year as well. I've done a couple episodes on that. And I did Mike's podcast there if you want to listen to some more stuff about that. Mike's doing a good job with his podcast, just interviewing players in the AFL. It's a little bit different than what we do here on AFU, but he's doing a good job and definitely worth a listening to if you get a chance to check that out and support him as well in that. So, Omari, quickly, how you been? How'd those podcasts go? They sounded really good from listening to them and seeing all the interactions that we got from them.
Yeah, no, it was a great time to interact with a lot of the guys on Team Canada. Reconnect with the friends I've played with and everything. And it's just awesome to see, I guess, Canada compete at that high level. I think it's one thing where I think everyone who pays attention to football loves to see like how we all stack up against other countries. And that was definitely one thing which, when you watch the game, there are some guys who came out and played. And one thing I really felt through the game was seeing how there's some guys who had to step away from the game, either at the CFL level, youth sport level, and got reintroduced back into the game. And like they just were after it. Like, it was just one of those things where guys that maybe didn't leave on their last best foot or anything like that, or just like on their terms. And you could tell like when it was like, hey, you never know when it's gonna be your last. And they played like it was their last. Like guys were running up and down the field, making catches, making plays, making runs. Like I know I highlighted one play where Gerald Pinto like caught a drag across the field and then like ran it up and like typically like you would see someone like if they're gonna run out of bounds, like brace for the hit, roll the back, roll out, and like just play it safe. But he literally ran through the corner, and I'm like, wait, like you make that kind of play when you've like missed getting hit, and that was really cool to see. I think just heading into their tournament too is gonna be fun to see more of them play. I think the one thing that when I was just doing that little pregame, I guess post-game Avengers meeting with myself, the Wizard, and Canada Football Fanatics. It was just like, hey, look, like it's crazy to see that this game wasn't covered more, and I think it's upon us, like our platform here, Teej, where if we can do that to where we can step in, just to give them some coverage and exposure, that goes a long way. And as well, if we can bring some of these guys into the AFL too, like that raises the bar for everything. If we can attract some of the high-level players there to keep playing football, because I do believe they have a break, and for those tuning in from the football Team Canada football side too, is like, hey, I'm sure any Alberta flag football team, Alberta Football League would love to have any players from Team Canada on their team. So, hey, we'll find you a job, we'll find you something, we'll get you strapped up. We'll go from there. But other than that, it was a great time. Looking forward to more of it.
Yeah, I think the game, we talked about this a little bit off air, but we'll talk about it on here as well. I think the game was maybe disappointing from a standpoint of having to travel all the way to Italy and winning a game 60-0. So I would put it out there that it would be interesting to put together an AFL All-Star team, the best of the best in the AFL, and maybe give Team Canada a little exhibition matchup. I personally think that people would be surprised with how close that game would be. A lot of those players have played in the either the AFL or the Ontario League. These are our peers. They're good players, of course, but we've got some really damn good players in the AFL as well. So they didn't take Jordan Heather. We'll gladly take him on our team and put it. And I'm serious about this. Like, if there's people listening out there, if Vince is listening and Team Canada reps are listening, this is something to explore. If they're willing to travel to Italy and win 60-0, like have them come to Alberta. We'll put together a team. Give us a week to practice, maybe in a central area, and put that together. And I think that would be quite a show and quite a spectacle, and I promise you it would be a lot better than 60-0 and having to travel all the way across the country. So I mean, what do you think about that, Omari? I'm dead serious when I say it. I mean, after our season, early October could be something that we could do.
I think that'd be a great opportunity. Like when I think of it logistically, it still allows the guys to still compete, still stay fresh, ready for the tournament. I think it does a lot of good. Now, I'm sure there might be some things they could say to say, oh, this and that, but I feel like it's just so easy to line up. Like if they made the Italy trip work, man, this would be super easy. Like, hey guys, either drive to Alberta, come to Alberta, hop on Porter, hop on Flair, um, get all situated. Maybe it works out in their schedule to where it just times up perfectly where they can get a game in before they head off. I don't know, something like that would be nice and easy, and I feel like it'd be a fun game because a lot of opportunity where the AFL can showcase and maybe the NFC too. Maybe Team Canada does an AFL side and an NFC side of All Stars, just so that way then they can really get sharp for their game.
Hey, that's a good idea too. And you know what? I can tell you, if you held that in a place like Airdrie with in their new field and their new turf, I think they had something like. Well, I was at the national game with you, Omari, and there was the fans were great. It was big numbers. And then in their very first high school game that they had there, that place had like 2,000 people. Like this,
packed.
if you held an event like that, like an AFL All-Star versus Team Canada, like the amount of people, the amount of publicity you could get from that and the excitement you could build with something like that for the football community in general. Of course, with our podcast and Wizard and Football Fanatics pumping that up, I think you could do really well and make a lot of money for those guys. It could even be kind of like a fundraising thing for Team Canada. You could work something out that way. But I think that could be something that at least needs to be looked into. I think that would be pretty cool. If you have any thoughts on that, listeners, comment on our Spotify, comment on our posts. Let us know what you think. I think that could be kind of fun. All right, let's get in. We're joined by Airdrie Irish head coach Anton and assistant coach Jean. I'm really excited to
actually just correct that here. We get this all the time. So just with how we've done it, we actually co-head coach this team. It's not assistant.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so just off the hop here, a lot of times Coach Jean gets because he's a quieter guy, like the assistant type or anything else like that. But, he's been so instrumental in developing what we have here. So it's not just the assistant side of it. He does co-run the team with myself.
Beautiful. That's good to know. I definitely didn't know. That's cool. That's a cool way to do it. I think you coached with the Wolfpack, correct?
Yeah, I was head coach there for 3 years. I came in Keon. He brought me in 2019.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I was on that championship run. And then obviously COVID kind of kicked us in the nuts there for that one season. And then Keon had opportunities obviously to move on to the Kodiaks in BC.
So let's get right into it. Anton, obviously you've had a couple years with the Irish now, really putting in work, rebuilding that program. In the recent weeks, you've signed a couple big players, two guys, a running back who is either an all-Canadian or first team something or other, if I can't remember correctly. You can correct me on that. And then an offensive lineman as well, both from the London Beefeaters. So a couple things. Talk about those guys. And also, is that a connection you have with London? Like, how did that kind of work out that you got? Did one bring the other, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so LJ and Sam are coming together. They played, both high-caliber guys, all-Canadian feel. And that just comes from having a coaching staff, really. Coach Tim Kearse, he made the connection here with Jared, like running our offense. They really just been Coach Tim definitely did a lot of work. He's been pretty heavy on the recruiting duty. So having that connection just throughout our staff, we know a lot of different people throughout the country. Just really putting that talent and all those networks to use. Oh, both of them are coming here. In that aspect, we're super excited to have them. Like LJ just brings a whole new dynamic to our run game, which is already pretty heavy as is.
Yeah.
Right. Coach Jared and Coach Tim will have their hands full in terms of creativity to use all of those guys, right? And then Sam adds a real good dynamic on the offensive line. Counterbalancing probably the most underrated signing from the offensive line is Taylor Lanigan from the Elite.
Right.
That kid is very good. He has all of the intangibles. He kind of reminds me of our former offensive tackle, Quinn McDonald. Like, he has the exact same tangibles. So those two are going to be critical. We have a couple other signings that we're just getting some of their numbers and some of their biographies and stuff too. So we're not quite done. But yeah, I'm sure you'll probably want to go into other signings as well. But that's really how it came about. Really, it's just our staff. I can't just say, I have a connection. It really is. We've really stepped it up, or tried to, at least as a staff.
Yeah, and speaking of the running back room, so it was already pretty deep. You guys have had a good running system and running group for a while now, 3-4 deep even. You've got Eric Kyler coming back. I think we lost somebody.
Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan. But talk about the running back room a little bit, because I think that's going to be a nice focal point for our team this year.
Yeah, for sure. So when you look at LJ, he's going to bring crazy dynamic, as I said. Then you have, Kyler, who's done a lot of work in terms of the offseason. He keeps his body in peak athletic shape. He's really worked on a lot of his craft in terms of running our inside zone concepts. When you get him around the perimeter, once he gets the corner, he can go. I can't say enough about someone like Shaver as well, who's a workhorse. Shaver's one of those guys that, when in doubt, you can give the ball to Shaver. And then you also have Peter. So he's one of our dynamic returners, but Peter has always wanted to play running back. We've, over my first couple of years, had troubles, finding a home for him. We maybe stick him at receiver, take the jet, but if I look at the work he's done to play running back, he looks really good as well. And then we have Braxton, who's, our bigger kind of fullback type, but he can still take the rock as well. So the key for all of those guys is making sure that everyone stays ready, making sure that depending on the type of the scenario, who we're playing, what we want to take advantage of, all of them have their strengths. And, having that depth is really a blessing. And also having that competition where they're going to make each other better. So we're super excited to have that kind of opportunity with those guys.
Yeah, and I know that Eric, from playing corner against him, when he gets those edges, it's not just the speed that he has, but he is a tank, and he is not a fun guy for DBs to tackle.
He'll run your ass over.
I'm speaking from my own personal experience on that. And he also kind of has like a look in his eyes when he's running that he actually wants to kill you. So, and he might actually. He actually might. So I'm really excited to see how that comes together. I gotta get that in my head, how we utilize that with all those guys that you have. And I've played with Tyler as well in the Wolfpack, and that he's a dog. He's going to do what you need to do and he can play receiver, he can catch the football. He can do a lot of different things. So that's a lot of weapons. It's a lot of fresh dudes coming in to run the rock, which is exciting. I know for me personally, as a receiver, outside of having a really good quarterback, there's a lot to be said about having really good running backs that can take attention away from the receiving crew, which we'll get into in a second, because that's not a slouch of a position for us as well. So I'm really excited to see how both the offensive coordinators, who we'll talk about in a little bit, work that together. So Omari, go ahead.
One question I think I know the legal one I know is now looking at, when we all look at last year, I think Calgary area is unique because we think of ourselves as a division of okay, we have Irish, Gators, Wolfpack. I'm sure in the NFL you hear hey, win out your division, you win at the conference, and then you can move on to the finals here now. I feel like we have, I say Wolfpack, I know we're not in the top part of this division here, but when you look at our division, it's we have such a heavy division of competing, where recruiting in the same area, getting field space, competing, all that stuff is such a very tiny stuff, where I feel like we have our own version of that NFL feel of hey, we got to win our division. So just looking at how end of last year was to this year, what were some areas that the Irish wanted to, work on to know that, hey, we got to do these things to really set ourselves up to win out our division?
That's a really good question. I'm going to probably start with specials, actually, for us. So, we really wanted to have an emphasis on specials last year, but I think just with numbers and everything, we didn't have, it was a really good plan that we had last year, but we just weren't able to execute it for, more so just, I think, those reasons. So this year, we've really wanted to not double down, but triple down on specials this upcoming season. So Coach John and I are going to be co-heading specials this year. Like I said, we had a practice. When did we practice, Coach? Last week on the Thursday, is that right?
Yeah, it was on Thursday in the dome there.
Assuming yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So what we did is we only had our specialists and our offense there. We really had both of our punters there. We had some of our long snappers. We had our returners, and just really focusing on a lot of those fundamentals, whether it's catching punts or kicks clean in the air, because that's a big thing, because once you catch it clean in the air and set the blocks, understanding little details in terms of how we want to protect out a punt. Right? Those are the little things that matter. And I think we're in a unique position because we have Brian Kennedy, who's actually from Ireland. So he's returning from us, for us kicking. Marcus can long snap and kick. Yusuf can kick. Teej, you can punt as well, right? So there are opportunities for us to really have that be a big part of our game. So that's one area. The second area, I think, is just revisiting our offense and thinking, okay, what did we do last year? Where are some areas that we did really well? And where are some areas that we really want to improve, given that to Teej's previous question on offense and our talent? How do we want to maximize that talent and be more efficient with it, right? And that's where we want to focus. Defensively, I think the probably number one thing is how do we get it 2 times a week and managing bodies and people getting a little bit older in terms of tackling and whatnot. So those are probably those areas that we want to really double down on to hopefully give us some good success this year.
And Coach Gene, a question for you now. How excited are you to have Teej on as one of your kickers, knowing that Teej brings his own brand of a play of the Teej punt that's well known in the league, and how he can run it, throw it, kick it at any point.
It's very exciting. I've already had opportunities, obviously, when he was on the pack there for that one season. He probably doesn't really recall me much because he never really got to get off the field. He was on offense, defense, specials. So it's like, screw you, coach. I'm staying on the field. You know what I mean? I'm going to do my thing up here, right? And he did really well. Obviously, it was tough. In that season, we had a lot of talent, obviously, but it's tough to get through some seasons. Like, you have seasons like that, right? And he did a hell of a job for the time that he was with us for that one season. And I know his talents. Obviously, I watched game film over the years. Obviously, you got a game plan against the top athletes, right? So it's been a pleasure watching some of this game film that we get. Not necessarily just with Teej, but the athletes all overall in the AFL. It's unbelievable that what we can get when we get the right film, mostly not like a camera floating off into the distance kind of thing, focusing on a bird. But and I think we've all had that situation where we're trying to figure out which game are we watching, or is it the Discovery Channel? But you can see the progress in this league and where it's going. It's great to see. Like, obviously, TG, you and Omari are killing it with this podcast, putting it through and really creating that exposure in this league. And now Kush is kicking in as well, and got David as well, put in that exposure as well. So it's putting a lot of pressure on viewers to actually, hey, we do exist. There are top athletes here. We're not just a beer league. I'm here to go for wings instead of doing conditioning. And now recruiting throughout, as you can see, from multiple teams, where we're recruiting from, not necessarily just Irish, but Gators, Jets, the Elite, Leduc, whoever's in this league, they're actually reaching out to numerous athletes to actually grow the talent here. So the competition is real competition, not just a Saturday game and go to sleep after. But it's a great talent because you see the brotherhood overall, and you see the changes of players when they swap to a different area and things like that. It's always that question, is he going to be a jerk when he comes over because he hated my guts when we played against each other? But yeah, no, we're back together again. It's like, hey, you're here. Thank God. Kind of like how you were saying about Kyler. You feel the pain when he hits you. Now you're kind of on the other end. It's like, thank God he's on my team, right? So there's definitely unbelievable talents in this league. And with the exposure that's being put with the teams and you guys, it's just putting it on the map.
I'll say this, Coach Jean. I do remember you. You're definitely right. I was on the field 100 for pretty much 100% of snaps that year. But I also, because it was so far in Calgary, I wasn't able to make any practices, so I didn't really get. I kind of showed up and went on the field, and that season was kind of a blur. Actually, this brings me to my next point. That team, you said we did have a lot of talent. I don't know how great the practices were. I probably wasn't missing a whole lot from what I heard, but that team could have done a lot more. And you know what? We almost did. Like, we went up to Fort Mac in that playoff game and upset those guys. And just an excellent football game. Sagan had a great game in that game. Daryl played really well. And then gave Cold Lake a bit of a run. Like, obviously, they were the best team by far in the league that year, but that team had a lot of talent, and that team is now almost, a lot of those key guys are assembled. So the last piece we need is my co-host. So Omari, Anton, Omari, Anton. We have a big running back room. We have a running back room that's big, but Omari can do a lot of other things too. So I'm not sure if we're going down there yet, but something to think about.
You have my number, man. Anytime. I've known you for a while. We're in the same industry outside of football, so I don't really know how much more I need to recruit you. Like, you'd have fun. I'll put it that way.
We've spoken.
The decision days it will come, and we'll bring it to the pod. You know what I just saw, Omari? Something popped up at the beginning of this podcast that said, "Do you want to go live?" So apparently, we have the ability to go live on this podcast platform, which might be something that we look into for
Maybe.
whatever announcement you end up making. Anton, let's talk about your quarterback situation. So obviously, you're going to have a new quarterback this year. You had kind of a stable quarterback for the last few years. But talk about this season. We're not going to talk about the past at all, but who do you have coming in? Who are you excited about? What's the QB situation looking like for the Irish this year?
Yeah, we got some pretty exciting talent here. Paul, he played at Crescent Heights under Coach Jared. Big body kind of guy, but he has cannon of an arm. Really excitable guy, really knowledgeable around the game. I think him and some of the other Qs were doing film on Friday, just going over just different coverages and whatnot. So he's been as a standout kind of guy moving forward. We signed Memphis Wallace from the Wolfpack, younger talent. When you look at him when you look at all the intangibles, he has them. So just what do we need to do to make sure we're more consistent? And then I think we have Brendan Wilhelm. So he's a shorter, again, quieter guy, but, very accurate in the short to mid-range game as well. Like, I think on the Thursday practice, I don't think he missed a ball. I think on that practice, so we got a couple other young guys we're talking to. I think Jay came out the other day. Again, similar to Memphis, a lot of good intangibles, right? We got some work to do, I think, but then that's where Coach Bolton and Coach Pat, our two QB coaches, we brought them on to really work with those guys to make sure that we're really looking at the fundamentals. We are talking to maybe one other person there as well. I think that might be a big splash, but depending on what his work schedule looks like. But yeah, if we can't get him, that's totally cool. I would love to have him, but at the same time, I love the guys that we currently have. And really, it's about development. I told you when I talked to you there, Teej, for 45 minutes that it's going to be an area of improvement, losing Josh in the past who gives you that consistency at pivot. And you'll never replace him, right? That's not going to be happening. But how do we utilize the talent we have? How do we continue to get it better week to week? And that's really our goal.
Yeah, you can text me privately the name of the guy that you're trying to get, because now I'm super curious. We don't have to say that on here, please.
Is this I'm trying IK?
Next question, please.
Okay, Omari. Well, here's the follow-up question. The follow-up question is, Omari, if it is IK, does that swing the needle for you?
Let's just say if it is IK, I've been working with a group to add to IK, but this is one of the side projects I've had.
Cool. All right.
Side project.
Jeez. You can also message me privately. Now I need to know. Anton, talk about your coaching staff. Coach John, you can talk about this as well. You both can kind of talk about it. You've put together quite a staff. I mean, it's one of the biggest reasons why you guys were number one on my list of where I wanted to go. I'm super excited. The only reason that I had to leave the Bucks, to make that decision to move on, was because we just couldn't find coaches. And personally, I wasn't ready. I didn't want to go and be a player coach again. I just want to come and play football and be coached and told what I need to do right and what I'm doing wrong and how to fix it. And I don't want to worry about scheme. And so I had a conversation with Coach Jared about half an hour the other day, just kind of introducing ourselves to each other and talking about stuff. And he just seems so knowledgeable about what he's doing. And what I loved about our conversation is I could feel the passion and excitement in his voice. And to me, that was so just powerful, because these coaches don't get paid a dime, right? They come and they volunteer their time. And to be that passionate about something with men's football, it just goes to show you, A, how much we've grown, B, how much the Irish have grown. And I think it's just a wonderful thing. So talk about your coaching staff, talk about all the guys that you're bringing on this year and kind of what their roles are going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. Coach John, do you want us to take the offensive staff? And then, because I'm taking the defensive guys, I'll talk about the defense. But go ahead, Coach. Go ahead on our offense.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. When in quarterbacks, we got John Bolden and Pat. Very knowledgeable coaches, obviously. They've won at different levels. So they bring a different dynamic, obviously, and different views, and they collaborate together to make sure the quarterbacks are very well in line. There's always going to be work, and there's always a little keys that coaches will take a look at to adjust, and you can see that they're on it. But we also have, Coach Jared that's keeping an eye on that, being as our OC, running that system, and Coach Tim Kearse, where obviously he's got invaluable experience being at the CFL level. But Jared and him are working well together to get things a lot hammered out, to make sure, because there's a lot of octane in this offense that we're building here. So when you got this much firepower, you need a lot of eyes, right? Because now you get into the nitty gritty of what you're going to kind of rotate with, how you're going to hit, what game film gives you, how you work with running backs. Obviously, Jared's going to be working on the running backs. It's something that he's very passionate about. He's played it in the AFL himself, so he's very knowledgeable at that level for the running backs. And you also have Spencer that's helping out Coach Tim on the receiver end. And then we have the O-line. We have Brent and Dustin. You want to see two big monsters that come to practice, you'll see them. When you look for O-linemen, damn, if you ever get a chance to get a hug from him, Teej, you'll probably get one, honestly, from Brent. Damn, that hug is huge. Like, you feel the love, man. And he's very passionate about what he does. And he hates wasting time. So when guys don't show up to practice or something like that, he lets them know the next practice so that everybody stays in line. But you see that offensive coaching staff that we got, it's just unbelievable. They're always on key. They're always pushing to be better, dedicating so much time. You guys have seen it yourself doing it, sometimes being a player coach as well, how much it can burn you out. You go back home, you talk to your wife about football instead of saying, hey, honey, I love you. So, yeah, you go through a little bit of hell, but these guys, they're really driven. Anton's no little slouch here, right? So he drives a lot of passion through all these guys. He is part of the huge reason why I'm here, right? So, yeah, that's
yeah, and talk about yourself a little bit too. Like, what's your kind of expertise? What are you going to be involved in? And kind of what's your role in the team outside of the co-head coach role?
Well, basically, Anton and I will be co-head coach, obviously, but we'll be doing the special teams. So obviously, everything that's going to be running around those special teams, we're going to be coordinating that. We're chomping at the bit because we have so many ideas, and seeing the talent that is growing on this team, there's so many options to do all kinds of fun stuff. So basically, AFL, watch out. And then obviously, floating around, making sure guys are taken care of. Coaches are, getting what they need in practices to make sure, timing stays down. Because that's a key to running a efficient practice, that you're not wasting too much time on one little thing. Right? You don't want to do basically skelly like 90% of the practice kind of thing, right? You want to make sure you get your indies in, and you work your game scout, both sides of the ball, that kind of stuff. Right? So you want to make sure timing is down so guys stay on schedule. Anything the coaches need, you basically help them out so they don't have to leave their stations. That's what's really efficient about having as many coaches as we have, so the focus can stay on the athlete.
Yeah, and I think especially in our league where we get 2 practices a week, and I think that's so important to be efficient with those practices that you have so you can get as much done in a little amount of time as possible, because as teams have shown in the past, and Anton and I have discussed this as well, like preparation is so key in this league, and oftentimes the team that's more prepared, even if they're under-talented or less talented than their opponent, can pull out victories, which the Irish did against the Jets a few years ago. I think that's really important, and again, something that I share your excitement, Coach On. I'm so excited to come there on Thursday this week and meet the guys in person and put the cleats on and run on that field and see the coaches and the excitement. Like, it really is contagious, and my wife can attest to this. Like, I haven't been this excited for a football season in a long time, so I'm really looking forward to getting down there and doing that. I feel that excitement, I feel that passion from everybody, and that can bring us a long way. So I'm excited for the season. Anton, go ahead with the D.
Yeah, just
one question I want to ask, just Chris, to stay on the special sides, because that's where I feel some of the teams that have won championships in our league have separated, right? Because I think the first we did the podcast, Teej, when we had Irish versus the Jets, 2023, special was a player there. The last year with the Gators and the Jets, special teams was a player there. Specials seems to be that one dynamic that is so easy to forget, yet those of us who know football and understand that it's a part of the game, because it can dictate field position, it can dictate momentum. 2 of those big keys that really dictate a lot of how a team can really start and finish. So, Coach John, a question for you now is, what have you noticed when it comes to specials on that? And Anton as well, if you want to touch into that too, just with everything we've seen now, just with how important specials are.
Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, like overall special teams, it is what I consider 1/3 of the game. When you have athletes that are struggling, let's say to start on D or start on O, people always kind of say, well, just go throw them on specials, right? Because nobody seems to care about specials. Just throw them there to get them some reps. We're not looking at it that way. We're looking at starting positions on specials, because we want elite effectiveness when it comes to specials. That's where you can change, like you said, Omari, your momentum, where you can change, with the turnovers, it really, you can score more points. I've been on a team before where we ran special where we scored more points on specials than we did on offense. So there's that importance that you have to really focus on the specials, because being that we're in a league where you might get, if you're lucky, 2 practices a week, not many teams have a whole hell of a lot of time to focus on specials, because a lot of times they might not have a full coaching staff either. So they have to focus on what they can on, let's say, on a Tuesday, and then they'll focus on defense on a Thursday, and then specials is kind of like, hey, we'll just draw it up before we get out before the game, or hey, we only have 11. Somebody run out on the field, please, right? So it's paying attention sometimes on some teams, but yeah, specials is definitely something that should not be ignored. It actually brings a lot of excitement to the stands, I find. Because it really kind of wakes some people up, because you'll see an offense going, oh yeah, we're going to run, oh, we're going to pass. Defense, oh, we got picks, so we're getting sacks. That's kind of exciting part of there. But when you get a turnover or a fake punt, it's like, whoa, I've never seen this before, because you get a draw of new fans that come into the stands, right? And in Airdrie, obviously, with that new turf, that field and everything, like you guys have said, it was like almost 2,000 fans that came out to a high school game. Like, holy hell. Like, can you imagine the atmosphere that's going to explode when you see this stuff? It just brings real football back to the scope of what this league is really about.
That's a great point. Fake, like as Omari said, I've completed a lot of fake punts in my life. Honestly, there isn't a lot more exciting than that, because it's like it's a little sneaky, right? Like you feel like you pulled one over on the other team, and like for me in my career, like everybody knew I was going to do it, and then we still did it and still executed it. So that was like even a little bit more. It's like it, but you still can't stop it because it was schemed well or it was done well. So you're exactly right. That's it's such an important part of the game, and it does fire up people both on the team and in the fans. Anton, go ahead about the defensive coaches.
Yeah, so Coach Matt joins us. He's new. He's going to be taking over our D-line. He's really well knowledgeable. He's coached for quite a long time, so I'm excited to have him with some of our defensive line talent that we have bringing back. Coach Eric Clark, so he's been with the Irish since the Irish has been in inception, kind of one of those OG guys that you always want to have around. He's been learning a lot in terms of football, coaching with Bonus High School, etc. So he'll be, starting helping me with the linebackers, but eventually as the season goes on, I'm just going to give it to him full time. And then we have Coach Connor Russell, and he's going to be with our DBs. Jamal, who so he had a pretty serious injury, so he's actually, despite everything, he wanted to come back and coach. And that's something that's really, I think, a testament to the culture of our program, that just because you're done playing, but they still want to be around the guys. So he'll be coaching with the DBs. And then Coach Michelle Jellin, so she'll be also with the defensive backs as well. So we have 3 DB coaches. The plan is I'll be coordinating the defense, but hopefully by about third way through the year, Coach Matt, Coach Connor will probably take it. I want to be spending more time like being a better head coach, just kind of supervising everything with Coach Jean. And the split really does work with us being on that co-head coach model, but that's something I've really found over my last couple of years. Like I love coaching our defense. I love, having the schemes and everything like that. But in order for us to really potentially take that next step to the next level for our coaches and our players, like you got to look to pass off that knowledge and have them run that third of the team. So that's, I'm just looking at time here, but yeah, that's where we are at defensively.
Yeah, no, we're still good. Omari, go ahead. You got anything?
Just wanted, I guess, to hear Anton your thoughts on specials and everything, because I know I asked with Anton just saying how it's such a key thing where it dictates. I feel like specials is so special. Like I know I said it before, but when you think about it, like, special really dictates 2 parts of the game: field positioning and momentum. Like, It's one of those plays where, like, I think with offense, you can always be building it. Defense always be building, but special teams can just take it away from you like that.
Right. So I would say with specials, like Coach Jean said, is like we really want to have people that, take pride in specials, right? As I said, having that starting role. Everyone wants to be a starting receiver, starting DB, starting linebacker or whatnot. And we glorify those positions, which are super important. But with specials, like we want to like really put some pride into those positions in terms of our returners, in terms of who's, blocking, in terms of who's going to be doing what, and really clarifying those roles and going with with that. Now, one thing that we're going to be looking at film wise is like, what are teams' tendencies? Given that we only have 2 times a week, like what are we seeing, and actually game plan a little bit and making sure that we utilize the talent that we have to make those either momentum game changing plays or put our offense in a position, but also with our punters. Like I think Brian on Thursday was punting 61 yards, I think, yes, on Thursday. So wow. How do we flip the field, right? How do we understand those pieces? Like, and then on top of that too is, on offense, okay, we're moving the ball, we're getting momentum, but understanding, what are our kickers' range? What is Teej's range if I'm coming from a field goal or whatnot? And making sure that as we keep everything on schedule. But I think to kind of circle your point, Omari, is if you have a scheme, you have base fundamentals behind it, then that will really dictate how you're able to build momentum on specials, because that's really just consistency and effort. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on.
Big time. And one point I wanted to touch on is, I know we're saying, I think most of the teams in the league practice 2 times a week. I think everyone's pretty fair in that Tuesday, Thursday, maybe Wednesday, Friday. Like every team has their schedule. Do you find it's a lot to pack in for 2 days? Because obviously there's that balance now in our league where we got to respect guys with their jobs, their work, their families and everything, and 2 days a week maybe might be fit to work. And then has there ever been that consideration like, hey, do we try and add a third in, or is it playoffs only? I'll leave the door open for both of you guys to answer.
Yeah, I would say that 2 a week for how Coach John and I have structured our practices is more than enough, right? Because when you look at all of the systems on all 3 phases, there's consistency. What I will tell people just on how we coach it is all 3 systems are built modularly. So you have like your groundwork, and then you can really build this like a Lego block per se. Okay, here's our fundamentals, but then you can add on this block, and then if it needs to be an adjustment, something doesn't work, you can remove this block and put in another block. And a lot of the guys understand it, right? I'll speak specifically on defense. A lot of our guys, how we teach it, they get it pretty quickly. And when we look at all of the different combinations and different things that we can add on, it's probably you can do it in 10 minutes, right? And then it's just repetition. So that's how we look at doing things 2 a week. Now, what we try to do, we respect the guys' times. Obviously, I want guys to have lives, Teej being a new dad, a lot of these guys being first-time fathers or, second, their second kid, work, careers, and all that stuff. So how do we, once you build a system modularly, how can you just, say, okay, we practice it. Maybe it's a film day session on Friday instead of a walkthrough to say, hey, do we have any questions reviewing that? Or do you use your Wednesday as a film one? Whatever that is, bringing that flexibility towards the team. Around playoff time or whatever, I think when we did this 2022, 2023, we went to 3 practices for the final, right? Just to make sure. 22 we had to when Josh broke his foot in the semifinal game, and working through some of those, like, what do we do here? So we leave that open just depending on the situation. But I think that covers it, Coach. Is there anything else I'm missing?
Well, there'll be like opportunities if guys are struggling with either concepts or how they're run and things like that. We'll do like the Zoom calls as like a defense or as an offense or anything like that, just to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. It'll happen where, like, for example, like Teej, you can't come on a Tuesday, for example, right? And then, okay, well, where are we at, right? And then you show up Tuesday and everybody's kind of advanced from you. It's like, well, okay, this is how we catch up. So everybody's on the same page. So there's nobody stressing over, I missed a practice and I didn't get that memo kind of thing. So everybody's informed. So nobody's left off on an island by themselves.
Yeah, I think that's also like player expectations too. Like, I think the culture that's being built with the Irish is, if there, I know there's a couple guys, myself included, that live a distance. There's some guys that live in Leduc that drive down there and come once a week. And those guys, especially, and myself, will hold ourselves to high standards as far as understanding that we miss a practice, but we're spending more time on film. We're spending more time studying the playbook. We're spending more time making sure that when we come on Thursday, we know the stuff we need to know and we're ready to go. And I think, again, that's part of the culture. I don't think a lot of times the last few seasons with the Bucks and obviously with the Wolfpack, it's like guys not only are not coming to practice, but they're not watching film. They're not getting in the playbook. And kind of like you mentioned earlier, Coach John, it was like you were referencing Wolfpacks, where we just show up to the game on Saturday and they draw the special teams up based on who showed up to the game. So I think that's just an all-encompassing thing. I have no doubt that we'll be able to accomplish everything that we need to
Yeah, I would
accomplish.
just also add one other point. Their Teej is, and this is really exciting for the players, is the infrastructure's here. So if you had to miss a week, you can call Coach Jared, you can call Coach Tim. It's ultimate accountability. There is not a single reason why you shouldn't understand what's going on. If you have to miss a week for family wise or whatever, it's fine. We get it. But are you taking that accountability to make sure it's like, well, just check in with your coaches, because we have coaches. Let's make sure you utilize the infrastructure, because if you don't utilize the infrastructure, now that's now on you. All right. So, and then all of the coaches, as you said, talking with Coach Jared, we're very excited. We want to pass on football knowledge. We want to make sure you guys as players are getting better, right? But we need to be able to utilize those. So,
Coach John, we've talked about the running backs a little bit. Let's talk about the receivers. I think this offense is going to be incredibly well-rounded. I believe that we have 3 of the top receivers in the league, and those are only 3 that I know about. So myself, Fardo, and Sagan. I've heard there's a couple other guys who are pretty good too, and I'm looking forward to meeting them. But so talk about that, John. You've coached a bunch of us with the Wolfpack, so you kind of understand what we do. But talk about the receiver group and kind of what they're going to bring. I would say this is probably the deepest receiver group. No, this is definitely the deepest receiver group the Irish have ever had. So talk about your excitement with that and kind of what maybe you guys are thinking on offense and how that's going to kind of look with the stacked running back room.
Yeah, with the receivers, it's another area where it's stacked up. Obviously with Shagun, you guys have kind of seen how his abilities are just unreal. He's come from so many different levels, and every level he's gone to, he's just been an elite athlete. And like back when I was with the Pack, that's when Bardo was starting his first year. He's kind of introduced to football at that point, because I believe historically he was in soccer. So obviously his talents has grown since then, and he wanted a little bit more coaching ability, and it was something that we couldn't really provide at that time. It was recovering obviously from all the COVID backlash and stuff, and it's hard to get coaches to come out. Players are kind of coming out underneath a rock, basically. It's like, are we allowed out kind of thing, right? So it was a struggle. It wasn't necessarily just on a poor organization and things like that. It's very difficult to get a lot of guys out. But then we got like St. Louis, for example. That guy's just unreal. You might have faced him, obviously, Teej. I'm not sure if you recall him, but when he sets his eyes on something, it doesn't matter what the hell's in front of him. He's either going through you or going around you or spinning around you or go under, whatever. He's going to that end zone. You're not stopping him. And if you did, well, he's coming right back at you again. So, like, Louis obviously has been around for many years. He was part of that. Omari, you'll remember, he was on that 2019 championship on McMahon that year, 2019. And he was a big, vital point to getting that championship done. He was, like, him and Daryl, the way they connected, and being Daryl the way he is, the GOAT, he was able to connect with pretty much anybody, because he just can put things on the rail. Especially in that last 2 minutes of that game, honestly, you want a quarterback at that spot to do something. Damn, Daryl is the guy.
What are you doing to me? You got to talk about this?
Yeah.
What are you doing to me, John? What is happening here? Like, it's the worst day. It's the worst football game. You have to understand, like I thought I scored the winning touchdown. I thought it was over. It was 3rd and 10, and Ben Natiak threw me a ball that should have won the game with 1 minute left. And you got to talk about the last 2 minutes of the games. Thank you for that.
No, we thought it was done there too, because we actually had John Ty. We weren't ready. He thought that it was him having to blitz, so he came down, and it was just a misjudge of call, and it just opened up the backfield like nothing. And it's like, here you go, cling, boom, at end zone. We're like, oh my God, we just lost the AFL. Right. And then Daryl's like calm as a cucumber. He just goes out there like he's just done it 1,000 times before. Right.
It was nuts.
He's unreal.
You got to respect the guy. Yeah.
He is. I love the bus rides with Daryl.
I remember that. I remember that, Coach.
Yeah. No, I remember the bus rides, and they're fun too, right? Like Daryl and I would be up front in the bus, right? And he talked to me about his son in the NHL and showed me cards and things like that, right? It was pretty wild. Great conversation. That's what you love in this league. There's so many stories. It don't matter what team you're on. It's one massive brotherhood that's here. So you can flip over. But I continue on. I could be here all day talking about this stuff. But moving on. Like we have other receivers. Obviously, Teej, you're coming in. Unbelievable athlete. You've played this game long time. There's nothing new that you haven't seen. But we're hoping to throw you a curveball here and there. see if we can lift you up to another level. And then you know, we have Spencer, we have Caleb. You know, they're athletes that like running 4.6. You know what I mean? Like just speed that just does not stop. Right. And obviously with the right coaching and the alignment, you know, these guys are going to only get better and better. And with Tim Kearse being at the level caliber that he is, he'll be able to elevate all these receivers. And it doesn't stop from there. Like there's several players, like some that aren't even announced at this point. You know, they're still waiting for confirmations and stuff like that because the recruiting never ends. Right. You want to make sure that no spaces are left not touched on. Right. And being that we got athletes that are, you know, dads and working guys and stuff, they can't always make it. You don't want to give any kind of long trip somewhere where you got half a team, right? So there's always somebody else to step up, right? Like there's no best man kind of thing. It's just the next man ready to go, right? Yeah. No, there's a hell of a. You got Sam Haney. If you ever seen anybody catch a ball, you could probably. Jamal's probably going to kill me for this, but Jamal was one hell of our DB that we had, and in practice, the challenges that these guys would put against each other, and balls that you were feeling that were uncatchable, like it just uncatchable. He would come down with this thing, and Jamal would get back up, trying to figure out how the hell did he catch this thing, and we're there. He caught it, right, and he's doing it one-handed. Right, we pretty much might as well call him stretch because he's just that long, right? The way he stretches out for that ball, right? But that's the excitement that you're jumping into, Teej.
Yeah, I love it. You know, it's to be surrounded with in the Bucs in 2021, we had a great receiving crew, but we didn't have any running game. We didn't run the ball at all. And to now add a stacked running back room with what's looking like a really good offensive line. You know, we mentioned Taylor, we mentioned the guy coming from London, Sam, and Josh McNally's coming back. And there's some other guys there too that I think are going to be really dominant. So it's really exciting for me. I think we're going to have good protection. I think we're going to be able to run a lot of cool play action stuff because you got to respect the run. And then you're going to have guys. I run a little bit faster than a 4.6, so if we've got a bunch of other guys running 4.6s, like we're pushing the top off of people. I'm just incredibly excited. I'm excited to see how teams are going to handle everything that we're going to throw at them, and we haven't even really got a chance to talk about the guys on defense. I'm really excited to get there Thursday, John, and see you guys. Anton, last question I'll have for you, and then I'll pass it off to Omari to ask a question or end the podcast. What's it going to be like for us to be back home this year? You guys kind of had to play away from home last year with the field being redone. But how excited are you to be back in Airdrie, back on this just amazing, literally world-class field as far as the turf is concerned? So what's that mean to the organization, and how excited are you for that?
For the organization, it means a lot. Like, I mean, we've definitely have missed playing at home for the past year, So it's really exciting for our players, the staff, brings back a little bit more of the continuity that we've always been founded on. I would say also for the community, like talking with Genesis Place and, you know, having good conversation with them. They're excited to have us back. Actually, both councilwomen are big Airdrie Irish fans, actually. So when we told them that we're going to be back, and they were super excited. So working with them, I know Coach Jean and myself, working to just more engage our community more. Like, you have that small town feel, and, you know, bringing up to like 2,000 fans plus to, you know, come out to these games, right? Really having that engagement. It's hard when you lose a year, right? Because I think 22 and 23, we built had a growing fan base, but then losing that for a year, it's like, oh, what's happened? Because we had to play in Calgary. But it's exciting for everyone at the end of the day. And we want to see not only just fans, but also, you know, that local high school talent, whether it's at Burt Church, George Mack, it's Croxford, because those is potentially your future Airdrie Irish players, right? So we really want to, you know, get back and continue the momentum we built since I took over as head coach.
Awesome. Omari, you got anything else?
I don't know. Just biggest thing I think at Airdrie, just that community feel, product feel that Airdrie has a big advantage there, and it's going to be nice to be home to do that and achieve that. And especially now, too, where I think everyone's going to be nice to see that Airdrie has a turf field and not the grass field that slopes and is always seemingly always wet on the guest side, on the visitor side. And I remember one time I ran.
That is true.
Wide receiver screen, and then like I got tackled, and I just remember just sliding. And I was like, "Oh, this is time for a while." It's like a few moments there, but I think there's something to be said about having some history of like Airdrie being on the grass field there, and then now to a turf field. Like overall product wise, like I'm sure Irish have this in mind too when you think of like overall product that you guys put out to like it gets better and better. And I think too with what the league's got planned for advertising our product, like Irish is on the top of that list when it comes to it.
Yeah, for sure. We're also like, we want to not only showcase the team, the field, and what is exactly what you're saying with the media, what you guys are doing, what Mike Couchet is doing, and everything else. We're actually looking through our own social media strategy too, where we're actually going to be having like live video, not only for like just on like the behind the scenes type of thing, like coming in with the team at halftime, understanding what the behind the scenes are when offenses with Coach Aaron and Coach Tim, or if myself on defense with Coach Matt and Coach Connor, right? Just to really understand how our program actually works. So adding that dynamic and really showcasing what we're about is something that's really cool. We do take great pride in what we've been able to accomplish to date. And it's always just that same mantra of like, how do we just continue to get better? Right? It's not about, I think there's a quote from Marcus Freeman. It's like, where do we need to focus? It's like, well, we need to focus on where our feet are right now. So we don't want to look too far ahead and whatnot. So it's just, if tomorrow's Monday, like, what do we need to do to be great today? Right? Just taking in small steps. And that's really our focus as an organization, and doing little things like the media and a lot more live action shoots, a lot more video to really showcase, having like Coach John and and myself mic'd up, and, understanding kind of how do we really handle this program? How we really do that? And I think that's something that's really beneficial to demonstrate, like, yeah, this is what we're about here in Airdrie with the turf field and the infrastructure, both on the field wise, the coaching staff wise for this organization, and just our relationship with the community. Right, I think it goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. Coach Gene, anything you want to say to wrap up here?
No, me and Anton are pretty united. We're basically joined at the hip. We talk to each other every day, so whatever he basically says, I'm joined right into it. It's a very unified decision every time we move forward, right? So if one's missing a practice for whatever reason, then the other one already knows what's going on, right? So there's no space for error. Right.
I think on average we talk, what is it, a day, Coach? Or was it 90 minutes on average we talk a day? Something like that.
At least. I think I talk to you more than I do my wife lately.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. God. Well, that's the passion, that's the excitement that you guys have. That's what's brought me to you guys. I mean, we're almost there, guys. We're almost there. We just need to hear Omari's decision, or if he's staying with the Pack, if he's going to the Gators or coming to us. But we're almost there. It's almost May. I've been golfing a lot, even though the weather hasn't been that cooperative. But I was out today in the snow this morning, getting better at that. So I can't wait to get out on the field on Thursday. And John, it's been a pleasure. I will see you guys Thursday. I'll be texting you on Tuesday or on Wednesday to ask how Tuesday went. But thanks for taking your time to come on here. Omari, you can go ahead and send us off.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate you guys coming on. Everyone tuning in, you made it this far here. Definitely want to say that, hey, we're approaching, I think we're recording this today. We're on April 27th. Probably come out the 28th. We're in the final days here. We're in the end game here mode, right? Like, guys are doing the last bit of work here. Some teams are, a month into practice, 2 weeks into practice. Some are having started. We're all coming into this here now, and it's exciting to see with how things line up and shake down. Hope everyone's getting their water in, getting your vitamin D in, get your vitamins in. Take care of yourself on that front. And another thing too as well, say that if you want to help support the show, you can help buy myself and Teej a coffee. We're both first-time dads here, just trying to navigate day by day on what minimal sleep. We're both surprised by how much we can do with very little sleep. For those who are parents, you understand that. For those who aren't parents, it's coming for you. But hey, it's help support the show, helps us a lot here. And then as it goes for receiving all our podcast notifications, check us out on Instagram, Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere where you get your podcasts, you can check it out there. Interact with it, share it. It all helps to grow the game here and get exposure. One thing that I know that we are always looking to do here for ourselves as AFL, and I know with the AFU and then AFL League, is really trying to engage our reach so we can get more eyeballs on us to essentially get more eyeballs on everyone else playing everything. So it's all a collaboration effort, right? More eyeballs, the better. And maybe one day we can become you can play in this league and get paid like the big bucks. Never know. With that being said, appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll see you all in the next one. Oh, I think, T, just to say who we're going to have for the next one, because this is now going off of, I think it's mainly going off of your preseason rankings, right?
Yeah.
Who do you have next?
Yeah, we're gonna reach out to the Jets and see if we can get the Jets on next.
Oh, I'm sure we're gonna get the Jets on. We know them boys like to talk.
Yeah, exactly. So no Gabe this time though. Maybe we'll bring Gabe on to be a host of the Jets episode. That'd be kind of funny. That's some crazy stuff could happen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Appreciate that. All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks Sean. Thanks Anton. We'll see you guys soon.
Yeah.
Just leave your computers up to keep loading though.
Yeah.
Okay.